Hey, what's going on everybody, and a warm welcome back to the channel. And on today's episode, we review Weller Antique 107, the original wheated bourbon. Run that video. All right then folks, let's get into today's video, shall we? And if you enjoy what we're doing and enjoy the content, hit that like button down below and smash the subscribe. So, we've reviewed a bunch of Wellers lately, and we also did the Weller Blind with Shane. And if you haven't seen that video, it's just two of us having a good time, drinking some good whiskey, and just really raw reactions to the whiskey that's in the glass without really overthinking everything. And it was a blind barrel as well, with some really interesting results there too. So with the Wellers that we have reviewed, we've reviewed the single barrel, the CYPD, the Weller 12, and the Weller Full Proof. I believe the Weller 12 was probably the highest rated one so far. So we're going to do the 107 today. So Weller is now made by Buffalo Trace out there in Frankfort, Kentucky. So this was a bottom shelf Weller, I guess, or just used to sit on shelves for the longest time. But obviously with the bourbon boom for the last 10 or so years, people are scooping the Wellers up like there's no tomorrow. You don't even see them on shelves, full stop here. So this has always been right up there in terms of some of my favorites, or definitely some of the favorites of the Weller lineup here, because I think the proof is really on point with this wheated whiskey. ABV sits at 53.5% ABV there. Again, it's called the Antique 107. We'll see if it tastes antique. The label, just looking at it here, we have the red label. Everything is the same design as the other Weller bottles. We have a cork on this one, unlike the 12-year on the Special Reserve that has the screw cap. Like I said, the original wheated bourbon, gold writing, it looks quite nice. Not as nice as the white and the black one are probably my two favorites, but nevertheless, it looks pretty cool there. Cork pop is a little flat, truth be told, but a real cork, so we appreciate that. So let's get this into the glass here. A great pour to start things off right there. So, just looking at it in the glass, it looks quite dark. We're getting some of that like calcium build up in the glass as well. Anybody who's tried Weller Full Proof, you might see that a lot there. You kind of have these like calcium flakes. I've never really seen them that much in the 107s, but we're definitely getting some here. It doesn't impart anything on the flavor that I'm told. It just looks, you know, just like you just have some white flakes in the glass. Looks a little thick. Looks, you know, quite viscous. Sits to the glass quite well, kind of, you know, when you pull back on the glass, it's still sheening on the glass there too. Color wise, it's quite dark. It's not too dark, we're not talking like barrel strength dark, but you definitely get it eking more towards maybe like a mahogany color there too, with like an orange hue sitting there. First impressions, just holding it in the glass and rolling around, it's given off a lot of nose-in notes here. So let's dive in and give you some of those nose-in notes right there. This is Weller Antique 107. So straight off the bat, not very proof heavy on the nose at all. Like I said, 53.5%. You might expect a little bite there on the nose. Not with this. I'm definitely getting some cola vibes here. Not kind of like the everyday like Coca-Cola or Pepsi vibes. Think maybe, you know, sometimes if you go into a store and you just feel like you want to get like an off-brand cola, maybe something that's like all natural or something. So maybe something that's more true to the original style of cola, where you get all those spices coming through. It's kind of more so like that. Some kind of like some aniseedy there as well. Maybe a touch of the bacon spices coming through as well, but super unique nose there so far. And definitely, again, plenty of that oak note there as well. Very similar to the 12-year Weller, which is just a bit of an oak bomb in all the right way. Some beautiful, beautiful vanilla notes and very sweet. And I do always get cherry on a lot of Buffalo Trace products. I'm still getting that cherry note on this one here too. But one thing that I do get from Weller Antique 107 specifically that I don't really get on the other ones is I do get this really nice berry compote note, or like a berry jam note. Like if you think of just like some raspberries and some like darker cherries kind of like squished down, made into this like jammy compote. You do get like that really nice, bright, sweet note to this, and it's beautiful. And I can nose this whiskey for days just for that note. Apart from that, like I said, you get some of that rich vanilla there as well. Beautiful, very, very well balanced nose, because you get that a little bit of ABV and you get all those other abundance of notes. So let's go in for a taste on this one. This is Weller Antique 107. So first impressions on the palate. You do get a touch of heat. So that just reminds you that you are drinking a whiskey. Nothing at all that's too harsh or too grain forward. Nothing like that at all. Just a little bit of spiciness. It doesn't sit around too long. It doesn't sit in the throat. You don't really get so much of that Kentucky hug. Mouthfeel, as you can tell, I'm clenching up quite a lot with like that oak tannins. Just the mouthfeel on its own though, it's quite rich, and you keep tasting those notes as well, because it's quite oily, and it just sits to the side and places the tongue really well there as well. Tasting notes. So you do get a little bit of spice right at the front there. Just maybe like kind of like a more so like a pepper spice, as opposed to like maybe like a tobacco or something else. But like I do get a really nice pepper spice. But again, much like the heat, that combination of those two flavors die off quite fast and just kind of sails away. And then what are you left with? With a whiskey that has this beautiful oak backbone. It's not too much of like a dry, bitter, over oak note. It's like the perfect amount that sits with this ABV here as well. That cherry note again transcends or comes straight through to the palate on this as well. It's a beautiful note. Cherry note is, like I said, more of a, on the nose, it's more of a dark cherry note there as well. So there's like a dark sweetness as opposed to kind of like a candy cane sweetness there. It has this really nice sweetness also running through the entirety of the whiskey, kind of like a honey, floral, like a honeysuckle sweetness there as well. Really nice. It isn't like a too sweet or overly sweet whiskey. It is very balanced between proof, between the oak and the wood backbone, between the sweetness and between the berry note that is there throughout. It does a really good job. All those flavors complement each other really well. You don't get any of that wheat cereal funkiness that sometimes you get with some wheaters on this. They've done a really great job of rounding out that note, so you just can't taste that whatsoever here. So let's talk a little bit about the finish there. This has a really long finish. You're tasting it and tasting it and tasting it, and that lends a lot to the oily mouthfeel that kind of is the gift that keeps on giving there as well. You keep chomping in your mouth, you keep tasting it, that chew. It also, that wood continues through to the end. You don't get any spice in the finish. You're just left with this like nice sweet honey wood finish. It's a great wheated bourbon, that's for sure. So what we need to think about value for money, A through F, and then score out of 100. So just off the top of my head, I believe I give the 12-year 90 or 91, the full proof 85, the CYPB around 80, 85, while a single barrel wasn't great. I think that was quite low, like 60s or something like that maybe. So what would I give this? I'm not trying to place this whiskey in those. I am going to give this an 89, which is a fantastic high score there as well. I thought that I'd like this one the best. Obviously, you know, in the blind, we had 6 whiskeys going at it once. So even though you're tasting them blind, it can still be quite difficult because you're going through so many whiskeys, and we had drunk a lot of whiskeys at that point. Again, I'm not going to tell you who wins, so you have to go and check out that video. But again, like I said, I thought I'd like this whiskey, but as I drink more through the well and I drink it, I'm lucky enough to be able to drink it more and more and more. I'm finding that I really like the 12-year. I just like the age that comes through for it. And I think even though it's a little bit less proofy than like I kind of like with this, it makes for a completely like wood finished berry bourbon, which is kind of like what this is, but with the extra proof there as well, which is why it gets 89, which is a phenomenal score. Value for money. So value for money, I know obviously, you know, well as at MSRP are always going to be an A all day, and this is an A. So if you live in Ohio, you're going to probably be able to find these quite often if you're someone who's on their toes, because Ohio, for some crazy reason, get a lot of these. Colorado, we generally don't see these here in Colorado, so my recommendation for you folks at home to get this bottle would be to make friends with someone in Ohio and see if you can trade them some whiskey, because I think I got, unless the store picks back there, I got all of my 107s from a friend out in Ohio that I trade stuff like E.H. Taylor Eagle Rare Single Barrel picks, Buffalo Trace barrel picks. They do get Blantons out there. I do some E.H. Taylor, sorry, not E.H. Taylor, I do some Elijah Craig barrel proofs, our toasted barrels, that sort of stuff. So stuff that you might be able to find out where you are, you might be able to trade, but obviously you need to make that friend there first. How much would I pay for this bottle if I've never tried it before? $100? Yeah, 100 to 130 range if you think what whiskey sells in that range right now. This blows the socks off a lot of that stuff. So yeah, I would easily pay $130 if it was the first time trying to get this bottle here as well. So all in all, a great bottle of whiskey, a great wheated bourbon, and an excellent addition to the well lineup there. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and if you have, don't forget to like the video and hit that subscribe button. As we always say on this channel, as we drink through the world's whiskeys one glass at a time. Cheers.